In addition to the organization of a narrative and kind of doing the process of introducing the idea and introducing the significance, but also kind of building up to this climax in a story, and all of the ways that the readings that we've done so far have talked about the ways that we can structure a story. We also think about the ways that we can ask additional questions using the question cycle to bring more detail into your story. So what we need to include for our reader then is the dialogue. And this is, the things that are said back and forth, or even the internal monologue of the things that you're thinking. We should include the sensory details. This means everything that we experience with our senses in that moment. That can help kind of add to what the reader sees or what the viewer sees in a particular text, but it can also kind of help us, build up and talk about why this was such an impactful moment. We also want to allude the significance to the audience. So we want to kind of talk about the actual impact, how it changed or affected you in some way. And most importantly, the memories that include all of this information act as examples to help support the thesis of your work. When we include dialogue, we're thinking about what were the conversations, the things they said that really impacted you. So when we're talking about dialogue, this is what you or other people said in the moment, and that could be a conversation that you guys had. This could be, what others or you were thinking in the moment, so it doesn't have to be spoken dialogue. It could be, that idea of internal dialogue. We go through this process. We go through different ideas in our head in different ways. So describing that, saying what that looked like or felt like inside your mind at that moment would be really useful. We also want to kind of think about why we're remembering this. So we reflect on why you remember the language in the moment. Were the words important? And then this is also related to the important quotes you remember. So you may not remember the whole conversation, but there's a specific moment that you clearly remember what was said and how it was said because it was so impactful to you. We also want to include the sensory details, especially because we're going to be talking about a memory, and we're going to be presenting all of this information in terms of helping our readers see what we experienced. So in your head, you have a clear image and a clear memory of what was happening. So we have to describe what that looked like. And sometimes, they've talked about how smells and sounds are things that can trigger memory. So we want to think about, was this in a quiet place or a loud place? Was there talking going on, or was there a lot of commotion, or was it very quiet? You want to make sure that that's part of that description. And even smells. So like if you're talking about holidays in this particular moment, food plays a huge role in terms of the memories that are constructed, and that can also go into taste because you're talking about kind of these significant aspects of how you remember a space and time. We can also think about textures. Like if you were sitting in a chair, was it a hard chair? Was it uncomfortable? Did it kind of contribute to, the uncomfortable conversation that you might have just described? It could be something where you're talking about, a soft toy you had when you were a child and how hugging this thing was something that gave you comfort. So we want to think about the textures, how something actually feels when you touch it. And most importantly, our actual emotions, what we're feeling about something, how we reacted to something. These are also sensory details. So this is that more kind of in our head, what are we experiencing kind of information that we can give people. So the more that we ask questions about what did I see, what did I hear, what did I smell, what did I eat and taste, what did I touch, and does that matter? And how did it actually kind of affect the way that you felt in that moment? We want to give as much detail as we can so the reader can actually see what we're trying to talk about as clearly as possible. Next, we want to think about alluding to that significance. So with all of this dialogue that's happening, with all of the sensory details, what was their actual effect on you? So how did it influence you? And that could be, how did it shape who you are, so your identity? and that how did you start to do different things in your life because of that moment in time, or what did it confirm for you? What do you keep doing? And what might your life have been like if you had not experienced the moment in the way that you had? That's extremely important because this is showing that this was a really pivotal moment. It was important in you creating your identity or your ways of thinking about the world or the ways that you act in the world. So kind of think about, what would the alternative be? And that helps us see why this was such an important moment for you in your life. And last, all of these are supported by memories. So the memories themselves are kind of like the photographs in this picture. We really don't know the context, we really don't know what's happening in these moments until you actually provide them as examples. So the information doesn't become as meaningful to your viewer or your reader or whoever's consuming a narrative that you're creating until you provide them examples that allow them to understand what's happening in this image you're providing. So we want to kind of say, this memory, this is that moment in time that helped me develop what I did. So we're describing the scene as a whole. So all of these things come together and they help show what you're talking about. They help show the actual message of your writing, and they help you kind of support the purpose, which is your thesis for this particular narrative example. So that message and purpose, again, that's what helps make a text. The narrative itself is the genre. And where we're talking about what a text is, a narrative has to then be supported by the memories, the things that are happening. Personal narratives are extremely important in terms of how the memory is presented. The more effective a text is, the more that we have described these memories to help your reader actually be inside your head and see it as you saw it.